Hey y'all, anybody who saw my first video, I am so sorry that you had to witness that. I crashed out and I feel way better from whenever I first posted that video. God, I was really struggle busing, I'm not gonna lie, but I actually saw one person comment that I could probably do like some video on my crafts. It got me thinking too, because literally I do crafts all the time. I make blackout poems, I write songs, I even, you know, do like clay art too. If I could show y'all real quick. Even like did this at one of my local clay places, you know, and I've been thinking maybe I should just document, you know, what I do. And also, side note, last night I was on TikTok for whatever reason. I couldn't go to sleep because of the time change, and it was like 1 a.m. Some guy's live popped up and I was like, you know what? I kind of like his vibe. I'm gonna watch it. He was reading out his own poetry, which was pretty cool. But I had asked him, hey, have you ever done blackout poems? And he said, what is that? And I was like, ma'am? And it's just so weird to me because I used to do this all the time in high school, like all the time. But it really was because of the librarian that I had at my high school. She really pushed for us to have that. But today I'm going to be showing you how to do blackout poetry, which is so exciting because it's so easy. And for you guys who think like, oh, I'm not creative, oh, I'm not like, I can't write, I can't draw, I can't do any of that, this is the perfect start for you, because you're literally taking a page out of any random book, anything that you have laying around the house, and you are just boxing out words to make a poem. It's not complicated, but you also have to keep in mind too, at least for me, the way that I've been doing this has always been, don't read the page. Try to separate like what the person is talking about to what you want it to say. So for example, like look at how many boxes I have on here. It's not that many words. I'm not trying to take the author's message from it either, and I'm relating it back to what I want. Sometimes blackout poems can look like this, but traditionally they are literally blacked out, and the only words that are showing are the ones that you boxed, which hence the term. But I think that this is more fun. I've been doing this for a while now, so I kind of have sort of like a vibe that I usually go for. If you want to participate in this, get some piece of paper from a book, a freaking newspaper. Hell, you could even like just write out how you've been feeling and make a blackout poem from that. Personally, I've been using this book. It's called 𝐁𝐥𝐚𝐜. Now, I have been using this book for ages. Look at it was this thick, y'all, and now it's gone down. I've like torn out the pages. It's coming out, bro. And there are tons of different stuff that I could work off of, but pick a book that's interesting. This book I actually got from my high school library. I got a lot of books from my high school library because, fun fact, I worked as a library tech at my high school library, and I also volunteered at a public library while I was in high school. That was for free. Why? Because I didn't want to be in the house. Yeah, girl. So that's why it's blacked out like this, because it was a throwaway that my high school just wanted to get rid of. As I've been like doing these blackout poems throughout the years and taking a lot of pages from this book, I've kind of realized the plot of it, and it's just basically like a modern day tale of Greek gods. Kind of gives off Percy Jackson, but not really. But the way that he explains, like, because I think at some point the main character ends up in love with like Aphrodite or some goddess. The way that he explains that goddess, like, there were some words that I was like, yes, this is exactly what I needed, you know? So get something that is a little meaningful. So as you're flipping through your book, and this book looks rough, y'all, like I've had it since I was 18. As you could see, there have been some pages or poems that I have kind of left behind, not because I didn't think that they were like good enough, but just because, like, for example, oh, this page is a good example. Look at how many box words I have out of here. This is what you probably don't want, because I remember going over this and just kind of not really understanding like what I want to say, and the reason why is because I'm basically just saying what this author has written if I have so many boxed words. But I mean, don't let me limit you. If you can do it, go for it, girly, like, for real. Usually, I'm not even gonna lie, what I like to do is I start off with the book like this, and then I just open it to see what page it lands on. Sometimes, and you'll know too, that whenever a page wants to come out, it'll rip so perfectly, like you guys don't even understand. There's a science behind this. You know how they have art therapy? This is also therapeutic. The more that you do it, the more that you get in the flow of it, and the less that you overthink it, basically. Okay, so once you found your page, and once you've sort of figured out your poem, rip it out, girl. Just rip it out. Ooh, did you hear that? I'm telling you, that is when a poem wants to come out. I've definitely had moments whenever I've like ripped the page like in the middle, or it's only ripped out some, and I take that as a sign that it's not ready to come out. But here's what I have. So if you can see, I underlined just probably 5 to 6 words. My poem is, I didn't mind the long work I do, comma, I invent my own luck. So, sweet, simple, and something that you can just create. Now, you have 2 different options for the next portion. If you genuinely don't know how to draw, if you don't know how to trace, if you don't even know how to draw a freaking flower, what I suggest you guys do is to just get a Sharpie, girl, and black it out. Black it out as clear as day. Just do this. Get your poem, box out the words that you want that are part of your poem, and black out the rest. This is the easiest part, and honestly, this is what takes the least amount of time. Usually for me, whenever I want to be fancy and whenever I have all these cool ideas, like, oh my god, look at this guitar and these flowers, like, it goes so well with what I'm trying to say. But then like 2 hours later, I'm still freaking drawing, and I'm still coloring, and I'm still trying to get it done, and then the time just goes by. It just goes by. So if you're in a creative mood, I am gonna say push yourself and do it. But for me, right now, just demonstrating to y'all, and I've already got my fix from yesterday because I already did this yesterday, I am just gonna black it out for the sake of blacking it out. Maybe, actually, in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day, and because this has luck in it, I think I'm gonna like draw some Lucky Charms or whatever they're called. Four-leaf clovers, there we go. Not me being like, let's just draw the fucking Lucky Charms on here. Okay, I'll be back. So something I also do, which I suggest if you are drawing, is just look up doodles for inspiration, especially just simple stuff, so that they don't like take up the whole page, and it's something that could just give you inspo. so that whenever your poem is complete and you have the kind of vibe that you want, like for me, I'm looking up lucky doodles, right? Because my poem has to do with luck. So I think I'm gonna draw that star, the shooting star. Looks pretty cool. And then, yeah, just pick whatever you feel is best. Ooh, an 8-ball. Yes, I'm gonna do that. For your drawing, or if you want to do this kind of blackout poem, I suggest you start with pencil first, lightly trace whatever you want, because it's gonna be colored in, and if you're writing too harsh on the paper, the lines are gonna show up. Just make sure, like, just trace it with a pencil. If you make a mistake, you just erase it, it's fine. It'll be like it never happened. But I'm telling you that because I just made a mistake and I was like, thank God I was using a pencil. So please do not just go straight on with the pen. Unless, girl, unless you're that confident, like, unless you are really that girl, okay? I trust you. And here's the thing about blackout poetry. Even if you make a mistake, even if you know, if you think it's not going to make sense to anybody else, it doesn't matter, because it's yours and you could just keep it. And it's like your little, it's like your little trinket, honestly. You shouldn't judge yourself over it either. So just get into the flow. Don't even think. And I know that's so hard too. Like, oh, just don't think. Like, yeah, like that's so easy, especially for someone with ADHD. But this, I feel like it does take a little practice to get into this, but it's also not impossible. I think this blackout poetry kind of was the catalyst into like me full-on writing poems and prose and songs. Well, I've been writing songs before that, but like it really, you know, just shot me into that world. So I mean, maybe if you just want to take your first step, start with this for sure, because you never know where it's going to lead you. But I also realized I'm doing luck. Why did I not think of doing a rainbow? See, this is why I'm telling you, just take your time with it. This is the progress so far. Take your time with it, experiment, look stuff up for inspiration. It is literally your own, okay? And this is something that you could hang on a wall. This is something that you could put in your journal. This is something that can honestly just be a reflection of like how you're feeling at the moment. I think I'm gonna add like a rainbow somewhere. I don't want to add a pot of gold. That's too much. That's too much. But oh, duh. That's also another thing. Don't be afraid to also draw into the words, because it's gonna look fine, girl. Trust the process. It's gonna look fine. As long as you box out your underlined words, you're gonna be fine, and as long as you don't draw over it, it's gonna work out. Oh, and also I forgot to mention, if you are on the step of blacking out your poem just with a black Sharpie, I suggest you do it behind a piece of paper, because the Sharpie is going to bleed. And what's worse about a paper kind of soaking up that Sharpie is that Sharpie stain getting on anything that you have under it. So I suggest you use the book. Honestly, that's what I've been doing. I've just used the actual book to black out my poems, but maybe you have something at home that you can use too. All right, so I think I have everything that I want. This is just really simple, and I know that it looks rough, but I promise you that whenever I draw over this with pen and color it in, it's gonna look beautiful. So bonus tips, if you are using this blackout poem to journal, you could also use whatever like journal you have and kind of put a background behind the poem, and I'll put up some examples right now just so that it could pop out. It could be a little bit more interactive whenever you open up the page. And it's also kind of cool too to look over the years and see what was going on in your mind whenever you were creating this. And so yeah, these were just some that I created, that I've been creating, I mean, God, since I was in high school. So the next step to do after this would be to box out your poem now. All right, so now that your poem is boxed up, make sure to not draw over these words, or if you're going to draw around them, make sure that you're very careful, whether using pens, any pastels, any watercolors. I swear there have been so many different times where, especially with Sharpie too, since the ink seeps through, okay, you kind of have to not even like go around, but like do an inch around, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And the finer the tip, the less hassle it will be. If you are doing the blackout, like the traditional blackout poetry, I suggest you start blacking it out on the edges just with a pen or a fine tip Sharpie, so that whenever you actually fill it all in, it won't get on the actual word. But for the people that are being more adventurous, like us, you're gonna, just depending on what you have, at least for me, these doodles are not taking up the whole page, so I don't have to be super careful. I mean, the only thing I have to really be careful about is this rainbow, because I am going to be using a watercolor / marker brush, so that's gonna create the colors in here, and then everything on top is going to be fine. Since you traced everything, I have two suggestions. One is, whenever you start coloring everything in, I do suggest to erase your pencil drawing, but sometimes it fits the aesthetic. Sometimes like the rough looking aesthetic is the one that you should go for, depending on what kind of like vibe you have for the poem. For me, I think that towards the end, I am just going to erase some of these lines, like especially for the rainbow. That's gonna go, girl, that's gonna go. This lucky though, I don't think I want to erase these pencil tracings of that, but and also for the clovers too, because whenever you color it in, you're able to you know, immediately tell it's a clover. It's a 4-leaf clover just because of how the outlines are. But for this 8-ball, I'm also gonna have to leave it too. And I mean, just go with what fits the vibe. And for your boxed up words, I suggest you just outline this box in a black ink, or any sort of color that you are not using within this whole scheme of things, just because the poem itself is supposed to stand out. So say you're using all of like yellows, greens, and pinks, something that would really make your poem pop out would be just a straight black, or just a straight red, or even just like a deep blue, you know, just something that is kind of adjacent to what color scheme you're using. So just to get a better idea of what I use these dual brush pens. They're basically watercolor / markers, and they're really fine tip. And then I use these colorful pens as well. You could get these items at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. And then I also use these pastel highlighters that I got in college a while ago, because I'm resourceful and I'm gonna use them. So honestly, just get anything that you have at home and try to create something out of your poem. And you could even use 1 or 2 colors, it doesn't really matter. I also forgot to mention, music is gonna help you a lot while you're coloring. once you're done with your blackout poem, it should look something like this. Okay, I just did a little color. I outlined my poem with a black Sharpie pen, and I also erased some of the tracing around the boxes too, but I did leave the tracing on the clovers and on this line, and then on the clovers down here too. Just do whatever fits the vibe, and once you're done, you can do whatever you want with this. You could put it in a journal, you can scrapbook it, you can like tear the edges so that you're able to like have it look really aesthetic. You could burn the edges too. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with the blackout poem, but for me, I like to collect them. And eventually I want to have like my blackout poems kind of cover a wall. But that is how you make a blackout poem. Let me know if you guys participated, and put your blackout poem in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys created, even if you don't think that it's like the best that you've done, or if it's your first time. I mean, I would just really be interested. I remember when I first did this and I felt like what I had to say couldn't fully come out of me until I started doing this, and so it just kind of eased me into that, you know, creative world. I think that this was a thing back in 2012, 2013, I believe. Basically, if you were on Tumblr, you would have seen this with a lot of people, or maybe it was a thing way back when, I don't know. But I would like to know any other ideas you guys would like for me to show you, just because I feel like every time I talk about blackout poetry, sometimes people just don't know what I'm talking about. But this is a fairly cheap and easy thing to do, and also it is very creative. You know, another thing that I probably should do is do a zine with you guys. If you know what a zine is, it's basically a collage of images. I usually do it digitally, but I think I still have some like magazine clippings and different craft stuff. So definitely comment below, tell me your journey by creating this. And I mean, again, if you're also just bored and you want to do something that honestly costs nothing, this is your go-to.